One of the things that I wonder the most about is what people think of me. As I'm talking to you right now, I'm trying to figure out what you people as viewers think of me. Do you think I'm creative for making videos? Do you think I'm studious? Do you think I'm weird? Do you think I'm introverted because I'm talking to a camera instead of a real group of people? What do you think of me? I think about what my parakeet thinks of me. I wonder if he thinks I'm this giant mutant amalgamation of flesh that should have been shaped like a bird but actually isn't because it's whatever the heck I am, and he's only okay with being near such a monster because I feed him. Whenever I have a friend, I always wonder what they think of me. Do they think I'm a fun person to be around? Do they think I'm kind? Do they think I'm intelligent? Do they think I'm witty? I don't know, and I always think about what other people think of me, and it must be because I don't know what to think about myself. And the reason I don't know what to think about myself is I have these conflicting things, because if you ask anyone that knows me, there will probably be a consistent thread with how they describe me. And it will always have to do with me being a rule follower, a square, a teacher's pet, someone who always does what they're told, someone who doesn't deviate too much from the norm, someone that just fits in this nice little box, at least when it comes to following rules, someone that is kind of uninteresting in that regard. And then in my head, I always have this thing where I'm like, but I have to be an interesting person, right? I've done all these things, I've been all these places, I've ridden roller coasters around the country, for goodness sake. I've helped to be a tour guide at a pinball museum, I've been to churches, I've served in churches, I've done all of these things with my life. I was obsessed with Pokemon, I've done this and that and the other thing, and I must be interesting, right? I must be someone extraordinary, but at the same time, I'm someone that's a square and a rule follower. And to me, for whatever reason, it's very difficult to put interesting and rule follower into the same category. Whenever you see a character in a TV show, movie, or whatever that's interesting, it's typically because they're not a rule follower. And even if they are a rule follower, the only interesting thing about them is when they break the rules and why they end up breaking the rules. Perhaps they're a rule follower that suddenly got their boyfriend kidnapped, and so now they have to strike out against the law and try and do everything in their power to get them back, or whatever you want to think of. And you never see someone construed as interesting, at least in my experience, that follows all of the rules. Now, if you have an example of someone like that, please leave it in the comments below because I'd be very interested to see it. But to me, it does not exist. It simply does not exist. And so how can I reconcile the fact that I am a rule follower? Well, I decided, let's go back and let's see the origins of this whole thing. Why am I a rule follower? Well, when I was in elementary school, I was a rule follower because, of course, I got disciplined by my parents if I did things that were wrong. Or I got disciplined by teachers, or I got disciplined by the principal. But even then, I didn't get disciplined all the time because, you see, in elementary school, there was one time where I did something that should have resulted in a suspension, and instead, the principal pardoned me because of my good behavior. Now that is the rule-breaking highlight of my life. That single moment, that's it. That is it. And I'm pretty sure at that moment when I got pardoned from that, that flipped a little switch in my brain that made me go, wait, people aren't going to enforce their own rules on me? What does that mean for me? I want to follow the rules, but if they're not going to be consistent in making me follow those rules, then I'm going to force myself to follow those rules. And I think it's at that moment that I became a person with a very strong set of rules for myself that I always had to follow. And these rules were essentially, get good grades, do everything that adults, teachers, etc. tell you. Follow the laws, whatever they may be. Don't drink, don't smoke, don't party, etc., etc. Basically, all of the rules that you need to be a square. And by the time I went to middle school, these were firmly in place in my brain. Now, middle school is supposed to be the time where you're a rambunctious teenager, someone who's going out and breaking the rules left, right, and center, someone that's just crazy in every capacity. Everyone always complains about how bad teenagers are. And yes, there's some sort of preteen because, 12 and 11 and whatever are not considered teenagers. But there's still supposed to be this time when you become a teenager that you rebel against your parents. And even as I transitioned from middle school to high school and reached the peak of my teenhood, which I am still within, I never really went against authority. I never had a moment where I was like, I'm gonna stick it to the man, I'm gonna go and do crazy things, or I'm gonna just say screw it for this class and not do it. I never really had a rebellion, which is weird, right? Because everyone has a rebellion. There's no such thing as a person who doesn't have a rebellion. It just doesn't happen, and yet it somehow did for me. And this was for everything, and I mean everything. I literally, when I was a kid and growing up, if I saw one of those like rope fences across a yard or something in a park, I would not cross that rope barrier. I would not, for any reason, ever cross that rope barrier. And I specifically remember a time when I was traveling with my dad, and my dad wanted to go ahead and take a shortcut across some grass, but it had a rope barrier with this sign that said, "Do not walk on the grass." And so I, as a little kid, said to my dad, we cannot walk on that grass, right as he's like stepping over the line to walk on it. I did not want to do it because in my mind that was breaking a rule, and breaking a rule was bad, and that's ridiculous, right? Everyone knows that if you really need to, you can go ahead and walk across the grass, but to me, it was a deal breaker. It was not something that I was going to do. And when I ended up getting a civil disobedience assignment for one of my classes, I literally ended up trying and going through the entire assignment and found a loophole where you did not actually have to do civil disobedience because you only had to do a certain amount of the things, and civil disobedience was only one of the things. So in this project where literally all you had to do was jaywalk, I did not want to jaywalk, which would give me the easy assignment, the one where you have to write less pages and it's just nice and easy. I so did not want to do that I would go and write a frickin' essay to make up for it. It's ridiculous, the extent that I went to follow rules, and the extent that I still go to follow rules. To the point that it came to a head recently, because if you know me, I do follow the rules, and some people that kind of know me decided that they were going to give me an award, and so I had a water polo banquet today. And at this water polo banquet, everyone got an award, and there were tons of awards that were like the Sunshine Award for bringing light into the water polo deck, the Cupcake Reward for being a sweet person and also having a cupcake-shaped face or whatever. There was an award for just being a crazy human being. There was an award for coming up with good quotable phrases. And you know what award I got? I got the Beyond My Years Award. The Wise Beyond My Years Award. And the reason they gave me this was because they quote, unquote, said that I would never come back from the weekend and come to practice on Monday with a crazy story. Because I would never have a crazy freshman year like they did. And that hit home for me, because this has been my freshman year of college, right? It's supposed to be the year that you go out and you party, and you do crazy stuff, and you do this, that, and the other thing, and you have little run-ins with the law, and you have stories that you're gonna be able to tell for years to come, especially when you have grandkids or whatever that are like, oh, what were you like when I was a kid? And it's like, what am I gonna tell them? That I followed the rules, that I went to my classes, that I went to, you know, the things that my classes organized, that I made a YouTube channel. Like, I don't have any of these rebellious experiences, and I don't plan on having them either. And it's weird. It's really weird, because if you go to Europe and you're 18, every single person doing that would drink, right? Coming from America. You'd be like, ah, yes, now I can finally see what wine is all about, and it's perfectly legal. Me, I go to London when I'm 18, and I don't drink anything. In fact, I get mad because I go to a communion at a church, and they give us wine, and I got mad because I had to drink real wine, because I've never had to drink real wine for communion. That is how bad it is, people. And so I've come to the conclusion that I somewhat need to get a life. And I don't want this to be a life that breaks rules. I don't want it to be a life that's crazy or dangerous or anything like that, but maybe the moral of the story is maybe it's okay to go a little bit off the beaten path, a little bit, you know, do things a little bit less normal, a little less squarish. I mean, a rectangle would be good, right? Or a rhombus or something. Like, it's still got 4 sides, but they're just a little bit off kilter. Maybe that would work. Or maybe I could just go about my same old boring life and always, and I mean always, win it, never have I ever. Either way, I'll probably be fine. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, you could go ahead and like the video. If you want to see more like it, you can go ahead and subscribe. There are videos like this when they come out at this point. I'm not making any promises anymore. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope that you all soar high and enjoy your ride of life. Bye!